Hey, what's happening everybody? How are you guys doing? This is Rob of Ro2R Review and welcome back. So you guys will notice that you are watching some gameplay footage of Raging Justice, which will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch and other platforms on May 8th in just a couple of days. You're just watching some footage of me playing through this because I'm right now playing it in my spare time between some God of War sessions for review. So for the rest of this video, you guys can enjoy this sort of preview of the gameplay and then look forward to my full review next week. So what I wanted to focus on really quickly today is the Nintendo 3DS. I know we haven't had much of a reason to talk about that system pretty much since Metroid Samus Returns came out many months ago, but it's kind of back in the news due to some recent quotes from Tatsumi Kimishima from Nintendo, as well as the new CEO that's going to be taking over very soon. And it's pretty curious information. It's basically kind of more of Nintendo doubling down on the 3DS, at least for now. And this has a lot of people talking. Everyone's had opinions on the 3DS since the Nintendo Switch launched for miles. I mean, it's just such a big deal. This is a huge topic. Everyone is saying either, oh my god, they should just kill it, I'm so sick of the darn thing, just focus on the Switch. And some people say, oh my gosh, they're still making so much money and selling so many units. It's a very profitable revenue stream for Nintendo, and it would be a bad business move for them to stop supporting it. All different things, and really all of those perspectives make sense. But with Nintendo and Kimishima recently doubling down on support for the Nintendo Switch, at least for the next year or two, I wanted to kind of just discuss what was recently said and what I think is going on, why I think Nintendo is doing this, and really if I personally think that it's a smart move or not. So let's dive into some of the quick quotes that were stated from Nintendo about the 3DS. Given that Nintendo Switch is a home gaming system that can be taken on the go, this situation may change if it grows from being a one-per-household system to a one-per-person system. But the price of Nintendo Switch is not something with which most parents would buy a system for every one of their children in a short period of time. Moving forward, we will work to ascertain what kinds of play people want at which price points, and as long as there is such demand, we will continue to sell the Nintendo 3DS system. I see the product coexisting with the Nintendo Switch at this point in time. So there you have it. Those are quotes directly from Kimishima himself about what Nintendo is doing with the 3DS and how they're looking at it. So what can we really take away from this? I mean, I think the bare essentials of what they're saying is, hey, right now the Switch is an expensive and premium device sold to a different type of gamer for a very high price point. The Nintendo 3DS captures a different market, a younger gamer market, partly due to its price and also due to the kind of library and the fact that it's an older system. And so it makes a lot of sense for us to continue to support the 3DS for right now. In fact, we even like the idea of the 3DS continuing to coexist alongside of the Switch. So what do I ultimately think of this? Honestly, at the end of the day, I think that this is fine. I think that this is not terrible news. I know a lot of people really hate to see this kind of stuff and hear these quotes from Nintendo because for some reason, people who don't like or enjoy the 3DS anymore are very adamant about it just going away. Like they're really invested in the thing just not existing and Nintendo not supporting it. I think it's a little bit weird. I mean, it's not like I completely don't understand why maybe they worry about it being a bad thing for Nintendo to support it. But I don't really see that as the case, which I'll get to in a minute, so I think it's kind of weird that people who maybe like one of Nintendo's products see the simple fact of the other one existing to be like an infringement on their enjoyment of the console they like, which in this case is the Switch. Like, if you listen to what Kimishima is saying here, it really makes sense. He's saying, kind of like I just surmised a second ago, they're saying, hey, the Switch is a $300 device. It sells to a different consumer, and it creates a different gaming experience for a wider and older gamer, for the most part. And a lot of parents won't really want to buy their kids a $300 device necessarily. I mean, obviously a lot of them will, and they will continue to. But there is also a specific younger demographic of gamer out there that Nintendo has always considered when making products and games, and is always very smartly catered to in different ways, which has kept them very relevant and extremely profitable, even through some of their darkest times. And so Nintendo doesn't want to let that market go. And they realize that, hey, the 3DS is the kind of product for a much smaller price point that parents might be willing to buy certain kids of certain ages, and that suddenly becomes a whole nother market. And then when you throw in the fact that still, to this day, even in a world with a crazy successful Nintendo Switch, the 3DS, you guys, it's still selling. People are still buying it. Nintendo is still making money. They're still selling software and making a profit. So at the end of the day, if anyone even has a problem with Nintendo supporting the 3DS, I wouldn't even necessarily blame Nintendo. I would blame your fellow gamer and the rest of the consumers on the planet who keep buying the 3DS in droves. I mean, it's really that reason more than anything that Nintendo realizes they have no reason to stop producing the thing. If Nintendo wasn't still selling millions of 3DSs a year, I promise you they would stop making 3DSs and they would stop supporting it with software. They just absolutely would. So at the end of the day, if people are going to keep buying them, Nintendo is going to keep making them. Now, the other aspect to this, and this plays into what I was saying a second ago, the other aspect to this that also doesn't bother me, and I think people really need to consider, is that the simple fact that Nintendo is still mildly supporting the 3DS and still has some corner of their warehouse that's still producing 3DS units and putting them in boxes and shipping them out to stores isn't really holding back Nintendo as a company. It's not holding back Nintendo's growth, and it certainly isn't holding back the Switch. I was recently on a podcast, the Casually Hardcore podcast with the Work to Game guys, who are really great dudes, and I had such a blast recording that podcast. I actually did 2 podcasts. I also did the Planet Nintendo podcast this past weekend as well. Hopefully you guys checked those out. But the reason I bring up the Work to Game podcast is because on that we discussed this a little bit, and one of the points I made and why I don't mind the 3DS continuing to be supported, and I don't think anyone else really should either, is because I don't personally see Nintendo's support of the 3DS as infringing on the Nintendo Switch. I mean, really, like, show me the problem we have with the Nintendo Switch as far as the sales of the console, the amount of consoles that they're producing, and the kind of software, the amount of software, and the quality of software that Nintendo is supporting the console with. Show me the hole in production there. Show me where the 3DS's existence is holding back any of that stuff for the Switch. And the answer is it's not. You guys, it's just not. Like, the 3DS's existence isn't holding back the Switch at all. The Switch is still selling like crazy. It's breaking records. It's selling out like insane. Nintendo's going to sell 20 million more. They've already made a Zelda and a Mario and a Splatoon and an ARMS and a Xenoblade, and we're getting a Metroid, we're getting a Pokemon, we're getting a Fire Emblem, we're getting a Smash Brothers. Oh my freaking god, the list goes on. And at E3 in a month, you think Nintendo isn't going to give us a couple of other huge games that we want? Of course they are. And third-party support is better currently than it's been since the Super Nintendo era pretty much. So I just don't see where the 3DS's existence is holding back the Switch, because it just isn't, you guys. It isn't. So I should definitely bring it down a little bit. I'm getting like heated and elevated, which I do sometimes when I'm trying to explain something that seems so logical to me, and yet for some reason there's this huge loud contingent of the gamer out there that's speaking against it. And it's like, if the scenario for Nintendo right now was different, you guys, I would be singing a different tune. If we really did see evidence that that Nintendo spending time on the 3DS is holding them back and holding the Switch back in their software output, oh my gosh, I would be agreeing with you. I would say, Nintendo, this is not a smart model. You're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing the Switch a disservice, and you need to just focus all efforts there. But somehow, Nintendo, the magicians that they are finding a way to create one of their best consoles they have ever made with some of the best software support we've ever seen from them, while at the same time supporting their 7-year-old portable, outdated device, and still managing to sell those things like crazy and make a lot of money, a lot of profit, and make great games for it too, and please the people who still enjoy that. Like, you cannot ask for a better scenario. And so anyway, the whole purpose of this video, and what I'm really trying to get at here, is that I just think it's fine that Nintendo's supporting the 3DS for however long they are. It's a little shocking, and it's not like I'm like happy about it, because it's like, yeah, I don't really care much about the 3DS now either. I know that Samus Returns is probably the last 3DS game I'm ever going to care about, so I don't need it to exist for me. I'm not going to be sad if it went away all of a sudden, but I see why Nintendo's doing it. What they explained here in these quotes make absolute sense. It's only making extra money for Nintendo while simultaneously not holding back the Switch. I am not worried about my Nintendo Switch and my library for the Switch and the games I'm going to have to play on it anytime soon, and I'd be shocked if anyone else out there feels that way either. So who cares if Nintendo is supporting the 3DS when people are still buying the darn thing? It just makes so much sense. Anywho, ha hey. Whew, man, I had a lot to say. I was pretty passionate about this, and I did not expect that, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't expect to get so heated and into this conversation, but as I talked about it more, I was like, yeah, this makes so much sense, and it's so dumb for people to be so mad about it. Like, if you don't like the 3DS, you just don't play it, you don't buy it, you sell yours and trade yours in, enjoy your Switch, you got plenty of games to play for that. It's not a big deal. But of course, people like to complain about all sorts of things, and that's the way we are today. So tell me what you guys think about this. What do you think about Nintendo's statements about supporting the 3DS? What do you think about their justification and their reasoning? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Do you still enjoy your 3DS? Are you happy for future support, or do you not really care? All thoughts and opinions are welcome here, as always, man. It's a very interesting topic, very, very curious to hear these quotes suddenly come out about the 3DS. And hey, I mean, for all we know, until 2020, we might still see new 3DS games coming out, man. How insane would that be? They might even hit 10 years on the darn thing. And you know, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Nintendo, because they just know handheld portable gaming, man. It's what they do. So those are my thoughts. I don't mind the 3DS. What do you guys think? Share your opinions below. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.